Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is a Legacy School Comprehension lesson for week 7. For this lesson, you'll need your comprehension booklet open to pages 25 to 27 or sheet 7. So today's comprehension sheet is from a book called The Dead Man's Cove. It's by Lauren St. John, and I'm going to start reading the excerpt for you. They came for her at 6:47 a.m. Laura made a note of the time because she'd been waiting for this moment for 11 years, 1 month, and 5 days, and wanted always to remember it, the hour her life began. It was still dark, but she was already awake, already packed, and the sum total of her possessions had been laid out in her suitcase with a military neatness. So, remember, when you're in the military, you have to always be very organized and ready to move at a moment's notice. So that's the way they described how neat she was. She had 2 of everything except underwear and books, of which there were 7 apiece. 1 pair of knickers for each day of the week, as ordered by matron, but not enough novels by half. Then again, Laura wasn't sure how many would be enough. When you spent your whole life waiting, books became like windows on the world, on the curious workings of the human mind, on shipwrecks, audacious jewel thieves, and lights that signaled in the night, on giant hounds that roamed fog-wreathed moors, on magical tigers and savage bears, on incredible feats of survival and courage. Can you find a metaphor or a simile here in this paragraph? We also have 2 underlined words, possessions, which mean the things that you own. And we have the word audacious. I'm not going to tell you what audacious means because it was a spelling word that we took about 2 weeks ago. So you can always go back and look that up. All right, let's continue. Laura sighed and pulled back the curtain beside her bed. Her real window didn't open out onto any of those things. Once it had faced the rolling, flower-filled landscape that had given the Sylvan Meadows Children's Home its name. But that was before a health and safety official decided that nature presented a danger. As a result, Laura looked out onto a car park and a tarmac playground with a couple of swings. So here the writer has set the scene. Can you imagine what she's looking out onto and what this children's home looks like? All right, let's continue. Beyond the hedge was a suburb of identical brown brick houses covered in snow. It was a vista of unrelenting dullness. Sometimes, when Laura was absorbed in a book, she'd glance up and be startled to find that she was still in a factory town in the far north of England, that she hadn't been spirited away to a forest of dark secrets or the Swiss Alps or a poppy-strewn meadow. This tells us that Laura gets very, very, very absorbed into her books, to the point that she forgets where she really is. But it wasn't about the meadow or the forest. Laura had been to some foster homes which had gardens the size of football pitches, packed with roses, ancient oaks, and decorative features like bird baths and love seats. One even had a swimming pool. She had been to houses run like army units, and others that smelled of incense and had a mom who sprinkled patchouli oil everywhere, and a dad with hair down to his waist. And yet none of them had felt right. Not even the last one, which was actually Laura's favorite because the dad loved books as much as she did. It was he who had given her 4 Matt Walker detective novels, Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, and Bleak House by Charles Dickens. Apart from the books, they were boring, Laura told matron when she returned after only 2 weeks. They spent a lot of time talking about recycling. The shortest time she had ever lasted in a foster home was half a day, but that was because she refused to spend a night in a house of a woman who kept a chihuahua in her handbag. A chihuahua is a type of dog. You're too fussy, scolded matron. Life is full of compromises. You have to give people a chance. It's her choice if she wants to keep her dog in her bag. Yes, said Laura, and it's my choice not to be around people who treat animals as if they're toys with no feelings. It's also my choice if I don't want to eat tofu 7 nights a week. So tofu is a type of food that's made out of soybeans. It has a pretty plain flavor and a spongy texture. Matron put her hands on her generous hips. What is it you're wanting? What's going to make you happy? A castle on a hill with a Rolls Royce parked outside? What I want, said Laura, is to have a life packed with excitement, like some of the characters in my books. Be careful what you wish for, cautioned Matron. Why? Asked Laura, because she knew that nothing raised grown-ups' blood pressure faster than challenging their stated truths. They hated inconvenient questions such as, what is the reason for that rule? Or, why has it taken social services 11 years to find that I have an uncle living by the sea in Cornwall who is willing to adopt me? All right, so before we move on to the questions, let's go back and have a look at some of the vocabulary here. So they mentioned a Chihuahua, and that's a small dog. They mentioned the word they underlined the word compromises. So a compromise is when you don't get exactly what you want, but you settle for something that's reasonable. We also have tofu, which we described, and they mentioned a Rolls Royce. A Rolls Royce is a type of very, very, very expensive car. It's a luxury automobile. And what else did they describe? What else did they mention? We have the word inconvenient underlined. So when something is inconvenient, it's the opposite of convenient, and that means you have to go out of your way to do it. All right, now that we discussed that, let's go ahead and look at the questions. So number 1, where is Laura living at the moment? Number 2, who is she going to live with now and where? 3, what can you see around the children's home? 4, look at the following sentences the sentence from paragraph 2. The sum total of her possessions had been laid out in her suitcase with military neatness. What does this tell us about Laura's character? Remember, we talked about what military neatness means. So what do you think? What do you think kind of person Laura is if that's how she packs her suitcase? Number 5, how much time has she spent in the children's home so far? Number 6, do you think she is happy to leave now? Explain fully why you think so. Number 7, how many books has she got? Number 8, who gave her the books? 9, what was the shortest time she spent with a foster family? 10, who do you think the matron is? 11, explain in your own words why Laura didn't like the woman with the Chihuahua. 12, look at the following passage from the end of the text. Why? Asked Laura. Because she knew that nothing raised grown-ups' blood pressure faster than challenging their stated truths. They hated inconvenient questions such as, what is the reason for that rule? Explain fully what is meant by inconvenient questions. So I want you to answer this in your own words. Number 13, according to what you read, explain why you think Laura likes books so much. Then I want you to explain the meaning of the following words: possessions, audacious, unrelenting, poppy, and compromise. We've already discussed a couple of them. I want you to look up the meanings, but also write down the meaning in context, the way that they've been used in the text. For extension work, you're going to summarize the most important information about Laura in a maximum of 40 words. All right, good luck, and don't forget to upload very clear pictures of your work to Seesaw.